Hey there everyone, and welcome to Novel With Me, the series which takes you on a writing journey from start to finish. Today we are going to talk about research for your novel. How to do it, when to do it, should you do it? The answer is yes, you should do it. When is the best time to do your research? Before, during, or after you've written your novel? Well, before, right? But in reality, it depends on the type of research that you want to do. I am usually a massive advocate for don't bother doing any research while you are writing your first draft, because it will only serve to distract you from the actual task that is writing your novel. Now, I am still an advocate for that, but I've come to realise that, well, I suppose not realise, but sort of understand the importance of doing research before you start, especially if you know some things that you want to do or you want to say within your novel. Researching small little details like the type of fashion or food they ate in 1926, or the type of weather it was in May 2016, or the name of that street in some American city. They're the types of things that I call non-important research items. They don't affect the plot in a major way, they don't affect character in a major way, so there's no need for you to really sit down and research to get those specifically right in your novel, especially in the first draft. Those are things that can wait until later, until you're doing revisions. There are some things, however, which I recommend that you do research in regards to before you start writing your novel. Of course, research does sort of really only affect the people who are outlining, the people who are planning, because you pantsers don't know what the hell you're doing before you even start. But either way, if you do pants and you do think of something that you want to have in your novel, try to resist the urge to research it unless it is something big, because that's going to distract you from your pantsing that you do. I will always 100% advise that you don't go researching while you do drafting. That's mostly based off of personal experience and hearing the horror stories from other writers who wanted to find out some random detail or some random technological tidbit they needed for their novel and ended up 4 hours later with God knows how many tabs open, watching some random YouTube video about how to probably make candles in 1826. But you know, I'm me, you do you. I can't stop you or anything, so if you want to research while drafting, you go ahead and research while drafting, I suppose. Of course, while I do have a non-important research list, I also have an extremely important research list. These are things that I will absolutely research before I start writing a novel, no matter how much I'm planning it. Even if I'm pantsing it a little, even if I don't know much about my characters, apart from a very vague idea, these are still some things that I would research if I knew those details beforehand. Like culture and religion, especially if it's one that you're not a part of or one that you don't know very well or aren't very familiar with. Disabilities and illnesses, symptoms, treatments, how they affect people's day-to-day lives. Sexuality and gender, you need to know what you're talking about. And major injuries, things that will have a long-term effect, like getting shot or getting stabbed, getting hit with an arrow, you know, you're banging your head and getting a concussion and falling unconscious. But if it's for more than a minute, no, don't do that. That's Hollywood, not books. Don't do it. It's not medically correct. Learn that the hard way. Those were my absolute musts for research before I start working on my book, before I even start outlining my book, because those are the things that are a lot more difficult to change once you hit revisions. It's easy to go back and fix one moment in one scene in regards to the weather, it's easy to go back and change that street name or change the description of that setting in a real life place that your story is based in. It's a lot more difficult to go back and change the aspects of someone's culture throughout the entirety of the novel, especially things that might have an effect on the character, which will in turn have an effect on their decisions, and then of course the plot. Yes, all of these things are character related. No, it's not a coincidence. Characters are the heart and soul of the novel. They are the most difficult thing to fix if something goes wrong, because like I said, if something goes wrong with your character and their arc, something has gone wrong with the entire plot. It's not just a quick snap of the fingers fixed. Now, of course, not all research during drafting is 100% unnecessary. I just like to avoid it. I do say that if you really feel that you do need to research while you're in the middle of a draft, try to limit yourself to 5 minutes, set a timer, and then after those 5 minutes are up, use whatever basic information that you have as a sort of research placeholder within the novel. That way you are not coming back and trying to fix a crap ton of stuff. You're going back to add more detail to that research that you've already done. Keeping a notebook, a Word document, a drawer full of random post-it notes, full of things that you need to research, full of research that you have done, full of research that you want to do, is key, because we're writers and we will forget to do it. And knowing us, we'll completely skip over it when we read our drafts, and then, you know, somewhere down the line we'll be like, oh crap, I was supposed to do the thing. No one wants that to happen. You can use the library or the internet, Google, anyone, to do the majority of your research. You can even try to visit similar locations to places that you have in your book, just to get the real atmosphere and description of the setting. If you're researching something specific to your character, like their culture, like their sexuality, then I highly, highly suggest that you ask someone. There is a wide community of writers out there from all walks of life who would be more than happy to help you with any issues that you might be having, who can help you with your portrayal of the characters to make sure there are no stereotypes, to make sure that you are representing them correctly and representing them in the best way possible. There are readers called sensitivity readers who you can employ, who have a similar background to your character. Say you were writing an Asian American, you know, find an Asian American sensitivity writer. They can read the book and focus specifically on that character, their background, their interactions, their life, and they can tell you what you did good, what you did wrong, what needs to change to avoid stereotypes, bad representation, etc, etc. If you're really lucky, you might be able to get these sensitivity readers to hop on board for the entire time that you write your first draft, so they can read as you write and correct you as you go along. That'll save you a lot of hassle in revisions. Whether it's before, during or after you've written your book, finding someone and asking for their opinion, their advice, is a step that you absolutely cannot skip. And remember that not every detail you research needs to actually end up in your novel. Do all the research you want, get pages and pages of it down, but in the text only include what is needed for the plot, what is needed for the character, what is needed for the context. Otherwise you're going to start getting into all that info dump and exposition that people really don't like. Just keep it simple and your readers can figure out the rest. In the description box below is a Just the Basics blog post which details everything I've spoken about today, and a writing worksheet for you to, you know, write down your research. Next week we're going to talk about planning and creating your character arcs for both a standalone and a trilogy. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Good thoughts and happy writing!